to hear a little bit more about you, Emmy, and how you got into some of these cool things that you do.
Well, thank you. It all started with the educator piece because I was an elementary school teacher for 22 years. And I guess I shouldn't say it all started with that. It's really started with the visionary piece and the advocate piece because I remember being 8 years old and standing up for a social injustice from then. And from then, that part of it was alive and well in me. And actually, you can read about that in our co-authored book. I shared that story about becoming an advocate. And then I really knew I was going to be a teacher. And I always will be an educator. Like I'm a teacher at heart. I can't not be. When I tried to switch to a coach, people are like, you're really teaching. I'm like, right. I'm more of a mentor than a coach because I love to teach. It's just what I love. And especially groups of people. I find that as much as I can make an impact one-on-one, I can make an even bigger impact in groups. And the genius, which if you're not familiar with that term, anyone, I was taught that. I used to call it the genius in the room, just everybody's thoughts and perspectives make more than just any one person, but it's actually a term called genius. So I love working in the midst of genius as well. And that goes with whether it's about speaking, whether it's about teaching people that they need to put themselves first in order to serve the world best, because change makers, which is my most amazing niche, are people who want to serve the world. They want to make the world a better place. And so they tend to be overgivers and pleasers and depleting themselves. So I'm on a mission to teach them that no, it's not selfish to put yourself first. It's actually selfless because that's how we come and do it from our overflow. And along the way, I found this incredible fitness practice called Intensati, which really incorporates all the pieces that I had been doing. I'd been a fitness instructor, and I'd been I've been doing a lot of mindset work in my teaching, and this puts the two together. And all through spreading love, which is my jam. So it was like the perfect complement to all of that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you beautifully put all of the things in a nutshell. And I have a feeling that the reason you're really good at doing that is because you have this natural speaker ability. And, we've been through this journey sort of together here over the last little while of Speaker Slam and getting on the big stage. And we were both in the Grand Slam for 2021. And it's just been incredible to also watch you and your growth and your message, and watching how I think intuition has also played a big role in your topics and how you present yourself, and how all of that shines through. So do you have any kind of process as to how intuition comes forward for you, or what is that like?
That's a great question. And I don't have a process. I've just become better at listening to it. Intuition is literally flowing to us 24/7. We are getting messages all the time. And it's just that it's our RAS. I don't know the science behind it, but more than likely that and our limiting beliefs are filtering out a bunch of our intuition. And I just became better at listening to it. I've always been probably highly intuitive. As simple as you go to McDonald's and you get your order, and the certain times you think, I should check my order. And I never would, because I would think, again, as like a people pleaser, I think, oh, I don't want to embarrass the cashier, or I don't want to take up more time in the drive-through. And so I'd either drive away or walk away and get in my car and drive away. And every single time I thought that, there was always something wrong with the order. And it's not like I think that every time, so just intuitive nudges come to me, and I used to just ignore them because I would think, oh, no, what about other people? Oh, no, I don't know, that looks crazy. Oh, no, all these things, right? And now I just realize every single time I listen to my intuition, it never leads me astray. Never, ever, ever. So I just become more aware of it And as your awareness grows, the messages, of course, come through more freely. Like I said, they're always there, but we just hear them more. And sorry, I say hear because that's my, like, I don't know, clair audio or something like that, clairaudient. Although it's not a voice in my head, it's actually more just a knowing, but it sounds to me like I'm hearing a message. So I don't know if that sounds confusing, but I say hear all the time. I'll read someone's message, like I just read, I'm like, oh, I heard you say. They didn't say anything. They just typed it. So that's just how I talk about it. Doesn't mean everybody hears, voices. I don't technically hear voices either, but you'll hear me say that. And that's just the way I talk. So when I hear a message, I just know this is it. I have to listen to it. Like, and not have to in a sense of obligation, but in like, this is the way, this is what it's going to be. And certainly for my Grand Slam speech, I mean, I had 2 or 3 other speeches written, which is common for me. But then that one came to me and it was a very controversial speech. I'm sure you'll agree, topic. And I was like, this is the one. This is the one. And I knew. And there was no moment like that. The first time I stepped on a big stage, I totally could have played it safe and gone with one of my other topics, but I knew this is the message I am meant to share. And it impacted so many people. And that's my thing. I'm impact driven. So it couldn't have been more successful for me, but that's what happens. That's how I do it.
Ah, amazing. Well, like yes to so many of those things, and the rabbit hole of like how we hear or sense or see or feel or intuition is definitely not a one size fits all experience. And I want to also welcome Brittany. Thanks for joining us here on the call as well. And I would love if you want to jump in for a second, because I know you're doing like beautiful things in your life too and growing your mission. So does intuition play a part in how you make decisions in your life or what you're drawn to do? What do you want to share with us for a moment? I'd love to hear it.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely feel like it plays a role, like listening to your gut or just like having like that knowing of like what you're supposed to do. Even though like lately I just feel like I've had such like a problem with just like following it, because like it actually means like I have to like put myself out there to follow it. And I'm like, I've been a stay-at-home mom for like 1.5 years now. And I'm like, I have to like break outside of my bubble and like listen to myself. Like, what? I haven't done that in a while, So yeah, so just to let Emmy know, I'm a nurse, I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm also a Reiki master teacher. So I got my yoga teacher back in August, and I haven't gone out and done anything with it yet. And I'm kind of like beating myself up a little bit about it. And then my Reiki master, I was a level 2 for like 2 years before I just got my master a couple months ago. And my plan for everything, kind of just like the business that I was going to go work at, like it closed down. So then like that shut those doors. And so kind of just trying to find my way again. But I do definitely feel like I am very intuitive and I pick up on a lot of things through just like knowing, through my dreams. Yeah. So, and I use like a lot of like my divination type of tools. Like I use like the tarot and oracle, and recently just kind of started using my pendulum more often. So, not really knowing if I'm like feeling fully connected, because I kind of disconnected myself for a little while. Probably just from like beating myself up a little bit, but I feel like I'm hopefully going to start listening to myself a little better again and get back into the swing of things. I don't know if that answered all your questions.
I love that. If I can just jump in and respond for a minute, a couple of things that really stood out for me. First of all, thank you for sharing all that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Also though, I think, being a young mom or a mom, it doesn't matter about the young or not, but being a new mom, I guess I'm going to say, like if you're 1.5 years we lose our voice because our whole everything 24 hours is like caring for that baby, right? So it's so common. And like, I want you to, if you're not already, give yourself grace for that. In like, oh my gosh, I lost my voice. Well, yeah, normal. Most people do. Extraordinary if you don't. So that's okay. And it's cool that you're already realizing it and saying, okay, I'm gonna, bring it back. And then when you were talking about the yoga teacher or yoga instruction, what I wonder is if when you think about teaching, does it feel like light and exciting and expansive to think about teaching, or does it feel like heavy and constrictive, like you should do something? For me, this is a tip for everyone. This is kind of how I make my decisions, is based on if it feels good, like expansive, amazing, exciting, passion, that kind of thing, then I know like, okay, that's the way. Because our intuition doesn't say like, hey, you should do this, or like, this is a drag, but do it anyways. Like, no, it doesn't. So if it feels like, well, I got this certification, so I guess I should teach it, then maybe it's not the time for you to teach it right now, right? Versus like, oh my gosh, I'm dying to do it, and I just feel bad that, because I've been taking care of my baby, I haven't been able to, just a little different. So that may or may not land with you, of course, take it or leave it, but that's what came through for me with you.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. It does feel very like light and exciting and everything to go out and do it. I definitely, I guess I need to feel more confident in my voice and like sharing that. I actually had a friend last night tell me it wasn't that I had to speak to everybody, it was the fact that everybody stopped and listened. Everybody, like, they actually listened to what I was saying. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be like, inhale and turn your head right and look out the window and don't look at me. Like, don't listen so hard. Yes, you're doing great. Look away.
Absolutely. Well, I know a woman who can help you with increasing your confidence through speaking, let me tell you.
It's just so interesting to me how when we actually connect and we talk about the things that we want to do, how there's so many similarities as to the things that we face that feel like challenges and hurdles. And sometimes people don't see it on the outside. And I often like to share how it's not that I don't ever have anxiety anymore in, overcoming that social anxiety piece of who I was. It's that it doesn't stop me from showing up and doing the thing that initially lit me up. Whereas 5 years ago, I would have said, okay, well, not only am I not going to have, I'm going to have the thoughts of please don't look at me while I do this, right? But also I'm just not going to do it, because then therefore nobody can look at me while I do it if I don't do it. And at least showing up while being nervous often actually connects really, I find, to the audience, because people feel that, oh, I'm like you're up there and you're doing that thing and I want to do that too. And that kind of gives this energetic permission to say, yeah, we're all in this together. Nobody's up here and somebody's down here. It's all about just, facing the realities of how we feel inside as we do what our mission is. And intuition will call you into the deepest of waters that are the scariest of places, but they can still feel right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Emmy, I would love to swing over back to you here. And I want to talk a little bit more about the clairaudient piece and how, you mentioned that it's like hearing, but not hearing, because I really resonate with the knowing part, but not knowing where the knowing came from. It's not that I like saw a script or had a voice say something to me. I'm very much so into some of the different clair senses. And I think they pop around too, right? Like, do you ever have moments where you do feel like you kind of see a sign, or that dream state, kind of visually seeing something?
Yes. And I want to clarify, I believe, because clairs are not my specialty. I did take a course on intuition and they talked about them, but I think what I am actually is claircognizant. That's the knowing part, right? But I don't know why then I talk about hearing all the time. But at any rate, yeah, I mean, we have all of them as well, but certainly dominant ones is what I was taught. But there are times where when Brittany's talked about the dreams, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I get messages all the time in my dreams. And so those are mostly where I got my visuals. Sometimes it will just pop in like that I'll have a random visual, in my waking state, but more commonly my dreams, like last night, I had multiple dreams about taking care of lots of kids, like my niece, my nephew, my kids. And then the next dream, I forget who I was taking care of. And then I was like, I woke up going, I feel like I'm taking care of everyone, like too much, to the detriment. I was like, okay, note to self. Care today is going to be important. So my dreams are always really weird. Like other people would be, how did you get that message from it? And yet for me, it's so clear. Like definitely my intuition speaks to me through my dreams as well. So I think absolutely it can come in different ways. And I'm sure that once or twice I have heard a voice, like actually, audibly heard a voice as well. So for sure, it can come in any or all of the clairs. And I think also we can develop those clairs too if we practice them and become more open to them. That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I received a really great tip from someone who was like a sleep dream specialist and expert in the mediumship and all of that and things coming through, because I have really weird dream experiences, and I sleepwalk my experiences, or I'll start talking them and they're really cryptic, and it's just always been this thing. And so having some level of like, what the heck's going on here was really important at a certain phase of my life. And I remember it being shared that the actual position that you're sleeping in is something that holds on to that muscle memory of the message coming through. So say, when you have those moments where you like wake up suddenly from a dream and it's like, I need to remember this. And then a lot of times people will encourage, okay, we'll do the dream journal, or, right away when you wake up, write down what's coming through. But an interesting tip to that was to stay in the position that you woke in. So I kind of joke sometimes that like if you woke up with a crooked neck, but it's an important message, like stay in that position for a minute and just like jot down what's coming through, or stay on your side or your back, or, just kind of mental note. And that the feeling really is kind of the most important thing, right? Like what's that initial overwhelming feeling to that symbolism? Have you ever noticed that through, I guess, looking at all the different times you have dreams on things, have there been consistencies in the same sort of symbolic message coming through? Like, would you dream about maybe many kids in the future and now realize, oh, this means for me that maybe this is going on similar as to before? Have you ever experienced that?
More so when I was younger, like I used to have more recurring dreams or things with similar symbols as probably a teenager. Now I just dream wild and various things more often than not. And maybe it's because before I needed those repeating symbols in order to understand. And now, no matter how wild and wacky they seem, I'm like, oh yeah, it's clearly this.
Getting back to your roots of wild and wacky, I I don't know, maybe at heart, that's absolutely, your fiery red is always definitely a symbolic, like, just thing for me of the amazing just wildness that is something I think we need to tap into more often.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah. So one of the things I love about you is how you have this ability to be like really present in conversations and really seeing other people for what they're trying to say. I'll admit that I have watched you in some of our Zoom calls where we're in trainings or in big groups or speaker competitions. And I love watching your mannerisms. It's kind of one of my favorite things to do in people, and to see like right now, the thing you just did, because you're listening, you're absorbing it, you're feeling it. I can see that you're actually, knowing what I'm saying by the expressions in your face, but you do this for other people. So in a conversation where two other people might be communicating about something, and you can see that that person is lit up about what the other person just said, and you're there doing this, and like this is the like standard Emmy thing, right? Like you're totally doing that. And I love that. Tell me, does that feel like something you need to do, you tried to do, you think you should do? Like, I know that's
Oh
my
no, that's just absolutely, like, I would have to work to stop that. I'd have to work to hold that back. So people often call me like the biggest cheerleader, because it's true. I'm so interested in whatever lights people up. I say that like my bliss, not that this is the only thing, but one of the things that brings me bliss is seeing other people in their bliss. So when somebody's either on fire, telling their story, or two people are having a conversation and one is really excited and the other one gets excited about, oh my gosh, absolutely. Like I'm just like, There you go. Like even thinking about it lights me up so much. So no, that's natural. It's not put on. Sometimes it's funny because people will say, "You're so dramatic," and I am, but that's the natural me. So like sometimes that can certainly work against me, for example, in speaking competitions, because people that don't know you think like, oh, she's just being overly dramatic and I don't know, acting. I'm like, no, this is me. This is the authentic Emmy. So I'm not acting. I'm just this dramatic, but I get super excited about things. So it's me.
Oh, it's such a unique ability. It's really, really cool to see. And I like watching when people can pull together all of their unique abilities that they didn't know that they had that lead to this really cool thing. And I think for you, a lot of that does actually light up around this holistic fitness piece for you. I want to hear more about how that comes forward because movement is definitely intention, is definitely something that is really unique in the practice that you offer with clients. So talk to me a little bit more about that.
Well, the first time I ever tried Intensati, and I'll explain it a little bit because I know most people have not heard of it yet. But the first time I tried it, I knew this is magical. Someday I will teach this because I was already a fitness instructor in other things. So, the whole idea of leading fitness was no problem. And so it really is. I mean, they say it's a mind, body, spirit workout. To me, that's just a piece of it. And it is very true, but just a piece because there's a monthly theme. And then we start with intention setting. So for example, this month's theme is a gentle winding down. And some people might think that sounds counterintuitive, but really often we've been in the hustle bustle of the holidays. And now we have all this pressure to like, oh, go hit your New Year's resolutions hard or whatever your goals are, even if you don't, your intentions, like go at it like 110%. And maybe that's not what we need. Maybe what we need is to slow down, tune into our intuition and be like, how should I move forward here? Maybe January is the month of waiting and thinking and then taking action. So not that you can't do that anytime, but so that's the theme. And we always have this introduction that allows the leader to tell a personal story and then bring it into like how everybody else in the class can bring that into their intention for the class. So we set an intention for the class. We move into the workout portion, which is cardio plus affirmations, which is just absolutely phenomenal. So maybe we can just do one move here together so that people get an idea, if that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna push this back a bit. One of the cool things is you can do Intensati sitting or standing. So we'll just sit so I don't have to move my whole computer.
Okay, cool.
And I think my favorite move is happy. So I hope Brittany will join us too. And I hope that everyone watching, whether it's live or on the thing, will just put aside your like, oh, I need to be a perfectionist or, oh, I'm going to look silly. So just be wild and wacky for a second and play with us here. So with happy, we just do big arm circles outwards. Oh, sorry, but you can see, I mean, my arms are doing that, obviously.
I'm gonna knock everything off my desk, Emmy.
Okay. Yeah. Don't knock stuff off. You're gonna move. That's why I move my water bottle. So this is happy. And of course it's happy. So you have to smile, right? Like you can't frown and do happy. Smile. Good. You're doing good. And so 1 month it might be, I am enough. The very first time my leader thing was, I am enough. So I know it's going to sound like a cacophony of the two of us, but that's okay. And Brittany, I don't care if you want to unmute and do it too. So what happens is the leader says it and then we repeat it. So I am enough.
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 And then we would like keep going with the movement, but we've been doing it a while, so I'll let you stop. And the affirmation. So then you think it inside your head. In another series, it's going to have a completely different affirmation. So I just love how we have the mindset piece of affirmations combined with movement. And movement is absolutely medicine on its own. Affirmations are a great growth tool on their own, but when you put them together, it's not additive, it's like exponentially better because combining the physiology of movement with mindset literally is exponentially better. So that's the magic of the cardio section. And then we always end with a meditation or a visualization. And then my favorite part of it, I mean, I really love all parts, but my favorite, because it's unique as far as I've seen, to intensati. Like people can go to yoga and they maybe do mantras. So there's some movement and mantra in that. I mean, it's not cardio. You're not doing, like Jane Fonda, but you may have this is cardio. It's more Jane Fonda. But you may have mantras and movements together. But then, and of course that has a meditation to it. But then it is this open forum for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on how many people you have in your class, to leave that much time for people to just express whatever came up for them. So often, like, they'll be crying either even during the series, sometimes with an affirmation, or then after in the meditation or the visualization, they could be crying, there could be like any emotions can come up, and they'll just get deep and vulnerable and share about it. And it's so beautiful to hear. Oh dear, daily alarm. One second. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So that's intensity, and it really does bring together all the pieces. And it's about allowing us to realize that we have the power to choose our thoughts, which is so self-loving, like believing in yourself, having that self-confidence, having that self-love. And I'm all about self-love. So it was just the perfect compliment. And also it allowed, because we have the power to choose our thoughts, it's like, what are we listening to? Are we listening to the negative thoughts that are automatically running through our brain, or the limiting beliefs, the fears? Or are we listening to the intuition, which is telling us like, hey, here's this like sign, you could do this. And I find intuition is more like a whisper versus the loud voice of the limiting beliefs that we have been entrenched with, whether it's like our parents' voices or our teachers' voices, or just what we started to believe ourselves and keep repeating. So it does take some practice to like start to listen to the quiet voice versus the loud voice. And intensity does help with that.
Oh, it's such a great point. And, you really inspired me recently to kind of adopt this into my own life in a just sort of a simple way in my daily life, where I do every single morning, I do a walk in the Enchanted Forest. I do our trails and just spend intentional time with our pets. So I have the German Shepherd Hector and our 2 little cats that, like, they're a band of 3 and they love to walk through the forest in the morning. And if I don't do it, they're on such a routine for it. It's like, meow, like I have to do the thing in the morning. So they're great for accountability partners. But what I've been doing is I have noticed for myself personally over the years, when I'm hitting this threshold of something big that I want to do or feel called to do, that all of a sudden I feel my resistance in what I call my angel wings. And it's only when it's something to do with growing my spiritual mission. If it's something that like, oh, hey, I don't feel like paying my taxes right now, I know I got to get to it, that stuff won't resonate in my body. It's the big spiritual things, because the logical side, I know I'm pretty good at taking care of what to do. But I've noticed this. And so recently there's some things that I haven't announced yet, but I'm going to be moving into that are probably bigger than anything I've ever done, which is like honestly scary for me, exciting, but scary at the same time. So I've had this building up in my shoulders. So every morning when there's this long stretch of one of our trails in the forest that is uphill. And Hector likes to just like go for it. And he meets me at the top and he's looking back at like, okay, we're here. And what I do instead is I do it fairly slow, where I'm like moving my legs up. So I'm getting a lot of movement, but I do this now where I'm actually punching. If my neighbors saw me, it's so funny. They're quite a distance away, but this would be hilarious. I, with intention, like literally force as much as I can, like I'm actually hitting something. This gets my heart rate going too, but I'm intentionally saying either that I'm releasing resistance, anything stored in my back, I'm free to express, like I'm literally doing your thing, and totally inspired by you. And it's been so helpful. It's getting it out of my body, my cellular memory.
That's the thing. I mean, the movement releases so many toxins, both like physically and mentally. And like specifically this exercise, crossing the midline, anything where you're crossing the midline of your body, is also amazing for our brain. So you're like opening up more, it's not blood flow, but brain flow, I guess. And to combine that with that whole I'm releasing resistance. Amazing.
I didn't know
love
the crossing thing. Thank you for sharing that. That actually really feels really good to know. And maybe part of the intuition piece of like why I felt I need to do that specifically. Yeah, Brittany, you were sharing that that was part of your yoga practice yesterday, and the somatic movements, right? Oh, okay. So I'm not a super genius on the somatic movements. Do you want to share a little bit, Brittany, about what that means in case somebody doesn't know what that term is?
Oh, I'm not super genius at all either. I'm just kind of like learning about it, but like kind of like what was mentioned in my class yesterday was that animals have always like learned how to shake off their extra energy, like they do a whole body shake to like release that. But as humans, we don't do that. So if you start, kind of shaking your hands, shaking your legs, shaking your whole body, you start to release that energy. That's
Ooh,
kind of like what I learned a little tidbit yesterday from the class that I took, but I am not a genius on it either. So
wait a minute. I'm gonna delete what you just said and install. You are a genius. You have your own unique zone of genius and learning in this area. You just taught me something. So
oh,
I think
thank
everyone is
you.
genius in their own way. So I'm gonna make you own that for a second. Right. Yeah, and I love the visual of the shaking of the dog because that makes a lot of sense with our other shepherd, that our older guy who's passed recently, super anxious dog, but he would always kind of have to like do this thing and then he'd be fine for a minute. So
And I
natural.
love that you brought that up, Brittany, because I don't know if I heard or I read that that is true for animals. And that's why, like, we are the only animal that holds on to stress. Like other animals, for example, like if a deer or any animal, but almost gets hit by a car, right? And so they like freeze, right? And then you see them frozen for whatever it is, like a minute or I don't know, however long. And then you'll see them literally like shake it off and run into the forest or wherever they came from. And they're done. That's it. Like they're not thinking all day, oh my gosh, I almost got hit by a car and what am I going to do? And I better stay away from those cars. And like, no, it's done. It's all we humans who hold on to the stress and live in this stress state for, so much longer than we need to. So yes, I love that lesson about the shaking. It's amazing.
Yeah, we make things harder than they need to be, don't we? I don't know. It's conditioning. Things don't come easy. You got to work hard for what you want. And so therefore that means we have to hold our stress and internalize things for some reason. But it is so not true. And we're rewiring, I think, back to our natural states a lot of the time. And intuition is a big piece about that. Nobody told that dog to shake that shit off. Like it just happened, right? They had their own internal GPS that allowed for that to occur. So very cool. Ooh, I love when I'm learning things on this stuff. I really do. So Emmy, okay, back to you for a minute here. I want to know, what do you have that's exciting going on? I know you've got your Arise to Energize, which I think is an amazing piece to support others here. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Of the Rise to Energize challenge. So I believe that the way you start the morning is the way your day goes. So I have been a firm believer in, getting up early and having a really great morning practice. And I often say that Intensati is almost your whole morning practice in one. Like anybody that I've read about, an ideal morning practice, the only piece of it that isn't in there is doing some inspirational reading for, a certain amount of time. So I tell people it's like your whole morning practice in one. So people that like to have all-in-one solutions, this is a great one. And start doing it in the morning is such a great way to start the day. People all the time tell me like, I'll be through the day and I'll just be repeating the affirmations or something, we'll feel stuck and that will just come to me. So intuitively it comes to them and they know like, okay, this is the one I have to repeat, which is amazing. So I've developed the Rise to Energize challenge, which is a 3-week challenge to come and join my classes. And if you happen to be in a different time zone or you're, just busy at that time of day, or you don't wake up at 6:10 a.m. Eastern, which is the time we do it, then you can get the recordings and you just have to show me that you've come to at least 2 out of 3 classes each week. And of course, that can be by showing up live or, showing me that you've done it on recordings. And then the whole amount that you've paid for the challenge either gets refunded to you if at the end you're like, that was great, but really Intensati is not my thing. Great. here's your money back. So it was a free challenge for you. And in the end, you got at least 6 free workouts. You could get 9 if you came to all 3 each week, but at least 6 because you showed up for yourself 6 times in those 3 weeks, or 9 times, or whatever. Or if you love it, and truth be told, I have not met one person who's tried Intensate that was like, yeah, it's that magical. And by the way, I did not create this. So I'm not just tooting my own horn that like, oh, it's so magical. This is my system. No, I just fell in love with it. And now I teach it. So if you love it, then you actually get to use that fee to have your whole first month for free. So you could end up actually with, instead of a 3-week free trial, you can end up with a whole month for free. And that is the Rise to Energize Challenge.
Love that. Okay. So I love the piece too, that if I'm not necessarily a 6 a.m. riser, that I can also do it on, another time and make sure to catch that replay. So that part is genius. I may be just going to bed at 6 a.m. I am a creative person in the really late hours. I don't know what happens to me. It's just, I feel like, well, I work by the moonlight. It's in my blood. I don't think I'm a day riser. That's why my skin is so pale. I don't get any sunlight. It's kind of ridiculous. But
on that note, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to say, when I say morning routine, it's really whenever you wake up, right? It doesn't have to be 6 a.m. If you rise at noon, or you work nights, you stay up night and you rise at 2 p.m., it's just the way you start the day is the way your day is going to continue, right? So it doesn't have to be morning. It just has to be when you wake up that you feed yourself first. Feed yourself first. Wonder if they're related.
Oh my God. Okay. So it's really funny because I just did a vision board yesterday. Ooh, signs and symbols. It's right up here. And it literally says, feed good, feed yourself first. So yes. I love that line. Okay. So first of all, amazing for Rise to Energize. Anytime that you are rising, it is important to start your day on the right intention so that you can build on that energy. So when we're done here, I want you to drop any other details or connection pieces into the comments for anyone to connect with you to learn a little bit more about that. I highly suggest it. I've seen the benefits in my own life too, and just adopting some of the practices. So super cool. Thank you for offering that in the world as well, because you're the perfect instructor for it. It definitely is your thing. It's totally your jam.
Totally my jam.
Secondly, so I want to do a little bit of an exercise here, and let's see if we can kind of tap into this 3-way intuitively. I'm going to pull you in on this, Brittany, too. And okay, so I'm making this up on the fly. Let's do this through intuition. I want to do a couple of intentions that we're setting for what the energy is going to be calling forward. So what I mean by that is right now we're sitting in the tail end of our full moon phase. So I like to teach moon phases as a week at a time, very specifically because our neurology, our human self, that physical component in our 3D world really needs time to catch up with all of the energetics that are being downloaded to us that we're sensing and experiencing. We don't really shift as well in the physical as we do in our mental, emotional, or spiritual states. So if you have the full moon presenting last week, we actually follow it through where I encourage you to follow through the actions, the prompts, the mantras, the energy of that phase for the whole week for the most impact. It's a really unique thing that we do at Moon Logic that really allows for a lot of change. So knowing that, and we're at the end of this releasing phase, this phase where we've got this culmination of energy that's been building based on what you've been doing and thinking and feeling. Well, so I'm going to ask a question here first for us, maybe all to answer just intuitively, the first thing that comes to mind, knowing that we're closing out that cycle, about to go into a new cycle in about a week. What is the one thing that you feel that you still need to release in order to start fresh, to build what you really, really want? So maybe that's the thought, a feeling, an actual physical thing you need to do, whatever comes to mind. And I want you to play along here in the comments if you're watching us on the live stream in the Facebook group or on the replay, to write your word or whatever it is that comes to mind. What is it that you feel intuitively in this moment that you need to release in order to move into your next stage of life? And I'll go first here to kick us off. And for me, okay, I'm actually going to close my eyes for a minute. Ooh, fear. Fear just came up for me as a big word that I actually saw visually. So I need to release fear. Okay. Let's do it. All right. Emmy, I'm going to go to you next. What's coming through for you? Anything?
Yeah, I've been feeling this like all week. So, your whole thing about the week, not surprising. I need to release resentment, and specifically about the feeling that like people are doing things to disrespect me when really they're just doing things because that's them, right? And so I have all this resentment, like if somebody doesn't show up to a call or somebody doesn't, whatever it is. My son like wakes up late and then goes back to sleep, and I'm like, why is he being disrespectful to me? I told him he had to stay up. No, he was tired and he went back to sleep. Like nothing to do with me, So that's what I need to let go of.
Ooh, good one. It has nothing to do with me. I need to remind myself of that quite often too, sometimes, right? The actions of others. Does this really have anything to do with me? That's a good line. Yeah. Okay, let's go over to you, Brittany. Is there anything that's coming through, a word or phrase or thought?
Oh yeah. And it was fear. Fear was the very first thing. So like my like New Year's like word of the year that I chose was brave. So hopefully that'll bring positive bravery through the year, and it's not inviting some craziness. But yes, fear was definitely my word.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to congratulate you as well for showing up and being here today, because it's such a great opportunity to really interact more than just even watching on the live or the replay. Because we get to connect with you and give you some energy and you give us. And I just think it's a beautiful way to grow past our own limitations too and stretch out of that comfort zone. So you're doing it, like you're doing it right now, actually.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so I want to do 3 questions in total here. So we're going to shift next into, okay, knowing that's our intention for the week here, closing out on the 14th, in 2 days from now, we're going to shift moon phases again into our 3rd quarter. And this 3rd quarter is all about gaining balance and order, adjusting, looking at where do we need to take feedback into account, and really being decisive on our own personal actions for what's good in our lives and what isn't, and really like deciding for ourselves first. This is the phase that's all about putting on your mask before somebody else, as they say in the airport or in the airline when you're getting all those prompts. So the question for this upcoming phase, you're going to intend this moving forward. So letting our intuition guide us for a week from now. What is it that you need to do most in order to make the decisions that are authentic for where you want to go? So what is it you need to do most to allow for authentic decisions to happen in your life? Okay, so I'm going to close my eyes again. What is it I need to do most? Ooh, okay, so this is really interesting. I'm getting really big visuals today. And all I saw when I closed my eyes was the keys of like a piano, like really big keys of a piano. So I think for me, the symbolism in that is I need to do more music. Music is like my heart. Music is my flow vibration. Music is everything to me. So to move past fear, I need to do music. Okay. Wouldn't have expected that one. Thank you. I'm going to go to Emmy next. What's coming through for you?
For me, it's definitely rest. And again, that seems like so counterintuitive. Like, how do you do more or, get more, even clarity if you're just resting? But I mean, because I get a lot of information in my dreams, but even if I'm not dreaming, like just when I am well rested, I think with so much more clarity. I know that's true, like factually, but some people, I don't know how people deal with, 3-4 hours sleep on a regular. Not me. I need to get enough rest. So definitely rest is what's coming through for me.
Okay, good one. Yeah, rest absolutely is the time period for that. Okay, Brittany, what is coming through for you?
I feel like practice, I guess. Just giving myself time, I would make sense, I guess, for me. Giving my own self my own time to allow myself to actually like come in and like focus on what I want to do. I guess like practice, time, focus.
Yes, practice, time, focus. Write that somewhere. Practice, time, focus. Practice, time, focus. How just see it in like big lights. Okay, so that was a really good one. All right, so we're going to shift next into an intention for about 2 weeks from now, which will be the start of a fresh new lunar cycle, the new moon. Starting on the 21st, we will shift into a whole week of glorious new beginnings. And as I always like to say, new moon, new me, where I get to decide, oh, I don't know, did I like that last version? Okay, let's continue with her. Or maybe I'm going to add some pieces that I forgot a couple cycles ago. Or maybe I'm just going to evolve into somebody totally different. And it's where all my multiple personalities get to say, I get a turn, I get a turn. And I love new moon phase. So thinking about fresh energy, building a foundation of magic based on releasing fear, taking that action, practicing, doing music, getting rest. What is it that you really expect? Because I want to actually set the intention for expectations of what you're going to build. What is that going to result in? If your intuition were to know, and follow along if you're watching on the replay here, what is it that your intuition is going to know ahead of time for you in this moment to expect in that fresh beginnings stage based on what we just intended? Okay, so what can I expect? Wow. Okay, so I got a whole bunch of light coming from either side here. So what's coming through for me is that I am going to be able to activate both sides of who I am. So the logical as well as the magical, and just bring it into a place of integration. So I'm expecting a glorious and easy and effort integration of self. I didn't expect this. This is cool, guys. Thanks for playing with this. Okay, Emmy, what's coming through for you?
I love it. I actually, something happened for me that I forgot to mention in my, I guess, intuitive process or how things come to me. So I just want to highlight that now in case it happens for anyone else, because definitely people would think this is weird. So for me, sometimes when it's like, you know, a strong message of yes, or like just the word that came to me was like, that's really the word. Literally, I don't know if either of you noticed or anybody watching noticed, it was not so strong this time, but my body will like jolt forward. Like my chest is like, and so that happened. So I know it's not just because it's this word, this happens to me. One time, funny story, I was sitting meditating at the hospital because, you know, you're waiting and whatever. So I'm just like quietly listening to an audio and my body is just like, and I know the woman beside me is probably having a heart attack because she's thinking I'm having a heart attack or something. I'm having a seizure. Like she's like, are you okay? And I never, well, not never, but I rarely go so deep in meditation. I'd like to, but it doesn't happen to me often that I don't know what's going on around me. I'm still very conscious of everything going. So she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I don't want to come out to talk, right? But I was like, and she's like, okay, because I was worried about you because, you know, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, just meditating. I'll tell you later. And then like, I just kept meditating. So anyways, that happens to me. And the word that came at the same time as that jolt was explosion, like an explosion in energy, and which makes sense. If you rest, that, you know, you'll have more energy once you're done resting for a week, kind of thing. So explosion. I think not just energy, but energy and momentum and, you know, action. Like I feel all of those.
Beautiful. Love that. And thank you for the story. We're all about the stories, right? It really captures the essence of the message. Okay, Brittany, what's coming through for you?
I guess what I feel is more allowing and accepting, because I feel like what I've been trying to like manifest into my life is that I am just like perfect as I am. So I feel like just like allowing myself to grow how I'm supposed to, and just like accepting myself, like that I am okay. Like I don't have to step out of the gate and just like be a perfectionist and like on top of things, and just like allow my slip ups to just be perfect as they are.
So good.
Mm.
And I can guarantee you there are so many other people that needed to hear that exact message today, even if you didn't realize it, because perfectionism just shows up and stops us essentially from doing the thing that we're called to do. And I thank you for sharing that, because self-sabotage is a real thing, especially at this time of year. So beautiful. Okay. Thank you so much for playing along with that. And if you are in the Facebook group watching this later, please go ahead and drop some of these intention statements for this week, for the following week, for the next week. Allow it to set your tone and your path. And, we often inside that inner GPS system is really trying to activate. We just got to turn down all of the noise around us to be able to connect and listen to what's going on. I get this visual of driving in the car and you have like the actual GPS on and it's trying to tell you, turn left, in 500 meters, turn left. And you're like listening to the music and then you're like, I just missed my turn because you're on the phone with somebody too over Bluetooth. And it's like, yeah, she said like 500-meter warning, turn left. You weren't listening. So it's the same kind of thing I find that happens, little nudges. And then all of a sudden, if you're not doing it, you're going to get a big sort of wake up call to some degree. So thank you so much for following along with that. Emmy, I'm going to turn it over to you to close out today. This has been amazing. I thank you both for being here so much. And let us know, first of all, how to get in touch with you in case you're just listening as you're driving or something today. And also any other last tips for building that intuition.
So thank you. I can be reached at Transform with Emmy on IG, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. So basically everything except for Twitter. I'm at Transform with Emmy, all is one word, of course. And I think my biggest tip would be to have grace with yourself as you learn to hear or translate is probably a better word. However, your intuition is coming to you. Don't beat yourself up and be open to it coming in any way and in different ways.
Yeah, definitely great advice. Thank you so much again for being here. If you're catching us on the replay, let us know what your favorite part of today was. Reach out to Emmy. Rise to Energize challenge is happening soon. Connect with all of that. And yeah, I'm just so thrilled that you jumped on today, Brittany, and I appreciate your energy and also mirroring some of mine back. So just giving confirmations too. So I love that so much. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. It was such a pleasure to have this conversation.
Cool. All right. Well, stay tuned for more of this. Thank you for being in the group, both of you, and have an amazing rest of your day if you're watching out there.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.